Welcome to a Best of Missouri Hands Visiting Artist interview of Cindy Larimore. I'm Nina Schatzkamer Miller, coordinator of the Visiting Artist program. Cindy is juried in painting. Juried artists are artisans who have developed their craft beyond mere competence of technique to a high standard of quality. Part of the Best of Missouri Hands mission is education. We ask juried members to participate in educational endeavors, such as our Visiting Artist program. This program sends juried artists into schools for classroom presentations. When in-person visits aren't feasible, teachers can arrange for Zoom presentations. Artists will show samples of their work and talk about their process. Sometimes they bring a project for students to complete. This interview is like what an artist might discuss in the classroom, but in more detail. To learn more about visiting artists, please visit our website, bestofmissourihands.org. So Cindy, tell me about your art. What process, materials, and techniques do you use to create it?
Hi Nina, I'd love to tell you. So this is a piece of plexiglass, and I either paint on plexiglass or glass, and I paint on the back of it. I apply all sorts of layers of acrylic paint, alcohol ink, acrylic ink, and then when I'm done I turn it over, and you are seeing the finished product through the unpainted front side.
Show us some more samples.
All right, well this is my little 12 by 12, and that's all on plexiglass. The only things I usually do on glass are I have some tables that I do and some other wall hangings. This one is my yellow Submarine, and this is one I'm just finishing, so I still have some things to work on there. I've got my garden party flowers. And then a big thing that I love to do are these cutout hearts. And I do all different sizes and some different cutout shapes. And again, they're all painted on the back, and then I flip them over to get the finished product.
Can you demonstrate a basic skill that you use in your paintings?
Sure. So this is one of my hearts that I applied the first layer, which I'm not sure if you can see it. If I have it up against me, maybe you can. This is a first layer with some alcohol ink on it. And then usually what I do, if I'm at home in my studio, I have music playing, and that's kind of what gets me going and gives me some inspiration, or maybe it's one of the colors that I put down. So on this one, again, here's the back side. I am going to take, and I love to play, I use some paint brushes, but really I don't use that many brushes. I use my fingers a lot. I use random toys or tools. So this one I thought would be fun to add a little texture to it. And what I do is I use some acrylic paint and just paint all over the back of my textured piece. I like to use bubble wrap. I use a lot of saran wrap. Whatever's laying around I grab. So again, this is the back of the painting. This I want to put some texture on there, so I'm just going to do that. Maybe I'll put some yellow or orange right there. And then when you flip it over, if you can see that, so that gives me a layer to start with. So there's no rhyme or reason to what I'm doing. I just like to put things, what feels good, where I want to put them. So that again, that gives you another start of my first layer. And I can add on to this if you'd like. Did not bring any paper towels. I like to use these Posca pens too to give me another, again, this is, what I'm putting on here is my first layer, is what you are going to see first over here. So sometimes I'll just take the pen, and again, the music's playing, and I just kind of doodle on here. Doodling are my big things. So if you can see that against me, so that gives me another layer. Or maybe I'll pull down here and just do random shapes. And again, that gives me a layer to build on. So then when this layer dries, I add more and more and more on there. And that's how it begins. Ready? All right, so I thought I'd show you how I'd put some texture on the piece. And you were looking at the back of the painting. I just apply the paint to whatever it is I want to add texture. So this happens to be some shelf paper. I've used bubble wrap, all sorts of things. And then I literally just press it on there, pull it away, and then it adds a little layer of texture. I'll take my brush and just kind of stamp on there. I love these Posca pens, and just adding random patterns just wherever I feel like doing it. Maybe I want to put a little squiggle on there. So I'm not even thinking about it. I just put it wherever I want. And then I can flip it over and show you, here's what it looks like from the front. And there'll be a lot more layers that I add to this as the painting goes on.
How do you go from an idea to choosing your materials to creating the finished piece?
Well, it kind of depends. I brought some samples to kind of show that process. This was one where I had a client when I was working on a commission piece, and they had very specific colors they wanted. So my inspiration for this, I knew what size they wanted, and this was an extra piece I did for me because I ended up loving the colors so much. But so sometimes the inspiration comes from the colors that a customer will request. Sometimes, and this one in the room it was going in, they had lots of geometric lines and squares, so I knew that that was going to be a base for that one. This particular one was inspired, I love music, and that inspires me a lot. This one, although nobody else would probably know it, was inspired by the Beatles song Yellow Submarine. So I started with the yellow base down there and then just kind of imagined I was under the sea and all the colors that would be there. So music, again, is a big inspiration. This one was inspired during COVID, sitting inside and you're just dreaming about being outside with the flowers. So this one was inspired by flowers, and mostly I just kind of go with it, and I have this no rules approach. This one I knew I wanted to do flowers, so I had to really think about this one ahead of time, because again, the details are what I start with, and then I just add layers of color and texture to them. So that gives you some idea.
How has education helped your art career?
Well, it's funny, I'm not a trained artist. I didn't go to school for art. I have always been around art in one form or another. My mom was an artist. The education for me is more just me doing it. And with all the resources that are online, I take all sorts of courses and freebies and things I pay for and just kind of immerse myself in learning new techniques.
And what messages are you trying to convey through your art?
Well, the first one I would say is no rules approach, letting it go. Just have fun with what you're doing. And really my art is all about colorful, happy, let's have fun. Hang it up somewhere, who cares if it really matches that room exactly, but you just want to add some color and brightness to that room. So really it's all about letting go, and that's what I tell people to do, even as they're looking at it. Just let go and just enjoy it. Don't worry if it's a matchy-matchy type thing.
How did you get started with this art form?
Well, interesting enough, I was always involved in art in one form or another, in crafts, but I had a friend that she wanted some artwork to go outside in a covered porch area. She didn't want glass, she wanted it to be on plexi, and she asked if I had ever painted on plexiglass before, which I never had. I knew I always loved abstract painting. So I started doing some searches online about painting on plexiglass. One thing led to another, and I just kind of came up with this process of how I wanted to do it, which is applying paint, taking off paint, putting layers on, taking it off. And we knew if it was going to be outside at my friend's house, we didn't want the elements to hit it. So I knew I had to paint on the back because I didn't want the rain and anything else to damage the back or damage the front of the painting. So once I kind of started playing with it, and once I put it on this plexiglass surface and I saw how the colors just pop out, I was in love with it. And I've never gone back to a canvas since.
Has it changed over time?
Yeah, and people have told me that are familiar with it, they love to see how my artwork is evolving. Whether that be, I just love trying new things. So whether it be trying to, as you can tell from all of these, I like color. And I've had people challenge me and say, okay, just like this was one, I only want these colors on here. Well, that's very hard for me. I like to just put in another splash of color and another splash of color. So it has definitely changed, and I'm constantly evolving and trying to, tweak it in different ways or another.
And how do you stay interested and motivated?
That is a great question. I think what keeps me motivated is this is happy and fun. And especially in the times that we're in right now, me personally, I need that. And I know other people need that. So it makes it easy to stick with it because it's just fun.
How do you show and sell your work?
Well, a couple different ways. I am involved at Artisans in the Loop gallery. I have my work there. I have a website that I sell through. I do shows and different exhibits around town. When they have calls for art, I apply for those.
What do collectors of your art say about it?
I would say what I have heard from people, everybody looks at it and they're like, oh my gosh, it's so happy, it's so joyful, it's just full of energy. And then you get a few people, like I've had some at shows where they'll walk by and I tell them what it is, that's painted on the back, and they'll say, interesting. They don't quite get it, but overall I'd say it's just happy and colorful is what people tell me.
How do you define success as an artist?
That's also a hard question, and I think that is such a subjective thing. For me, obviously it's about selling. I want to sell and you want to make money. For me, it's just knowing that I've made people happy.
What's the best part of being an artist?
The best part about being an artist is that I am allowed to follow my passion, and my passion is colorful art and just creating and doing. So to me, that's the best part about my artwork and following my passion.
And what's the worst part?
The worst part, or the hardest part, I would say, is not to go down that rabbit hole of comparing yourself to others, especially with social media and you see all these other artists out there doing something, and it's very easy to fall into that hole or that trap of, oh gosh, why are they selling more than I am? Or their stuff looks amazing and why doesn't mine look that way? So that's a very easy and hard trap to fall into.
Have you chosen to make art a career?
Yes, I'm lucky enough to be able to do it, or fortunate enough to be able to do it part-time. Could I do it full-time? I don't know. I don't know that I'd want to be out on the road and doing all the shows and doing all of that. So for me, I've made it work as a part-time career.
What one piece of advice do you have for aspiring artists?
It would get back to that rabbit hole of don't compare yourself to others.
How has Best of Missouri Hands helped you as an artist?
Well, it's funny because I did my first true art show right before COVID. And that's when I first got involved with Best of Missouri Hands. So I was fortunate enough that over the course of the pandemic, when we were really locked down, I had this group, these resources, these people right in my living room. They were right there with me in my computer. So they've been a great source of inspiration. They've been a great source of education, just a wealth of knowledge. It's been wonderful.
What's your website address?
It is artbyclarry.com.
And do you have an Instagram page?
I have Instagram and Facebook, and it's all artbyc.larry.
And when you're not creating art, what other things do you like to do?
Well, I love to create in the kitchen. I love to bake, love to drink wine and learn about wine. Love to play with my puppy. We have a 10-month-old golden doodle, so far he's not been painted, but so I enjoy my family and just enjoy creating things.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.